Pause it there. Yeah. Hey, Reggie, welcome.
Hello.
We are nearly at 1 o'clock, so let's have a little bit of music before we kick off our AI Innovation and Ethics chat. This is Cry Baby Purple, a Dublin band, with the lead singer Mikey DC. His mother is visiting us tonight, actually, as it is. But here we go. Cry Baby Purple.
There must have been something in the air that day. An eerie spell was cast on me, and that was the only way. There was something about the way you looked and how you danced with me. You weren't the girl I knew before, you were confident and free. We listened to the band finish their set. I took another drag from a cigarette. Don't you think that love's a pain? I feel bad for who brought her.
Don't you think love's a pain, Reggie? We'll kick off in just about 1 minute. Welcome, everybody, to the SOSTAC Band's Back Club. This is Mikey DC and Cry Baby Purple.
Get out of bed, just remember what I said. I was just another guy who fell for your timid smile. So I hope you stay for a while. I can't recall.
Okay, let's hold it there. That is all the way from Dublin, and we've got Mikey DC's mother, American mother, joining us this evening. Not on the chat show, but just come to stay with us over the weekend here in London. Back in London again. It's good to be with you, Reggie Johnson, communications strategist, cult leader, I would say, with some of your thoughts coming through on the AI. How are you, Reggie?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing well. I'm smiling. In fact, we had a sing-song last night, despite the terrible result in the opening Six Nations game against France, Ireland-France, and we got stuffed.
Oh,
Stuffed. But we did have. I was with Johnny Malarkey, my infamous or famous, wonderful friend Johnny Malarkey, and his brother Martin, and we did at 12 o'clock. The sing-song started at midnight, despite losing heavily to France. The sing-song started. So great old day. The Six Nations up and running, and I did write a piece about AI and getting it wrong and the need to double check, which we'll be talking about this later on. The risks in AI. We'll talk about it later on. So we've got a nice busy session today. Excuse me. We're going to be talking about firstly AI safety update. Excuse me. We'll then talk about disinformation techniques, plus 8 big juicy risks that you've got to avoid when using AI. Then we're going to introduce something about bot chats with ads being integrated into them. And then I've got some really interesting news about a 12-year-old innovative genius. And then to wrap it up, a really nice piece about kindness. We've talked about kindness before in the world of business, and this is something quite profound, which we'll mention at the end. And of course, we're going to recommend a free AI course that, Reggie, you discovered. And I think you've been inspired by it. We don't have to say too much about it now, but you think it's a good one?
oh, definitely. I think it's definitely stay tuned and hear a little bit about it, and we'll give you a link to how you can take it for free.
Take it for free. I took it for free during the week, and I have to say I am so impressed. I kind of thought I knew a fair bit about risks in AI, but it's well structured, well written, and a 1 hour course. So yeah, nice one. So look, we're going to go straight at it with the AI safety update. There are so many cases around the world, but I just thought I'd mention 2 here for you. That is one. Some news just come in. Spain is stopping under 16s using social media. They're going to ban access to social media for under 16s. And this is amidst a range of measures to regulate the tech platforms. So age verification, they want that. They want an effective system that works. They want real barriers, not just check boxes. And the Prime Minister, the Spanish Prime Minister, actually stood up and said, our children are exposed to a space that they were never meant to navigate alone. Now, Reggie, that sounds like an echo of what we've been saying for 5 years, doesn't it really?
Yeah.
But as we said, our children are exposed to a space that they were never meant to navigate alone. And he goes on to say, a space of addiction, a space of abuse, pornography, manipulation, violence. And then he says, we will no longer accept that. Good on you, Spain. Great to see. Australia's opened the door. Spain's there now. And he goes on to say, we will protect our children. We will change the law in Spain to hold platform executives and the CEOs of tech companies. We'll hold them responsible. They will face criminal liability for failing to remove illegal or hateful content. Good on them. And I don't care what anybody says. The billions they're earning in profits, there is room for the extra cost required, and it's not massive cost required, I don't believe.
Oh, definitely. We just heard from a whistleblower we talked about a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
and they had asked the question when she was testifying in front of the Senate, is
Yeah.
there room for them to do these safeguards and still make profit? And she's like, they're making over $100 billion a year of profit. There is plenty of room.
Correct.
That profit is not the problem. And secondly, why would we put profits before our kids' lives anyway, when kids are dying because of extortion scams and other kinds of things? So
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to see people standing up, especially like when they mention the part about holding the executives accountable, because right now the whole system seems to be set up to do everything it can to avoid tech bros, tech CEOs from being held accountable for anything their companies put out there, despite the complete disregard for safety based on decisions they've made.
Yes. As we've said before, you wouldn't be allowed to release a unsafe car into the marketplace, yet they do these things, the AIs and social media, which can damage us seriously. And we have the evidence. More evidence. What's being called the US tobacco trial of our generation. This is one of your favorites, Reggie. This is Nikki Petrosi, the wonderful Nikki Petrosi, who really is, standing up and beating the drum and tracking it down and calling it out. I think she's absolutely terrific. But that's her. She says it's the tobacco trial of our generation. And this is in Los Angeles, the lawsuit in Los Angeles, and which she calls it the tobacco trial of our generation. So it's Kaylee, age 20, versus Meta and YouTube. Wow. So as Nikki says, when trillion-dollar companies addict kids on purpose and then hide it from us, we stand up in defiance. She's at week 2 and she's covering it every day on her post. So we'll put a link to Nikki Petrosi and her updates so that you can follow it yourself. So the 4th of February update she gave us was that Meta is making social media more addictive. The whistleblower Louisa Clarence Smith shining a light on Meta's negligent behavior. Her article in The Times on the 4th of Feb said how Meta is making social media more addictive. So it's another whistleblower standing up and saying, this is, in black and white, here it is. The company sees a lot of, this is Mark Zuckerberg updating his shareholders. He says the company sees a lot of opportunity to further increase the amount of time people spend on the apps thanks to AI. So, black and white, he's saying it. So 2nd of February update was where Meta requested a trial delay. It's reported that Meta had asked for a delay in the trial. We're hearing that this is because their lead attorney is sick, although that hasn't been confirmed to the public yet. This likely means that Zuckerberg's testimony will be delayed, which is frustrating because a lot of parents and advocates have been waiting for this day. But rest assured, this means that Zuckerberg, Meta, and all the other CEOs and companies will still have their day in court. We might just have to wait a little bit longer. Jury selection was ongoing at that point in time. So we'll keep abreast of this unfolding case. There's plenty of cases elsewhere as well, but there's 2 that we're just kind of jumping into. Now, I wanted to talk to you about other forms of not just being addictive with content that is kind of drawing you in again and again and again. Another abuse of generating subtle content that's been looked at, and whether it's distributed through social media or whatever, is disinformation, political disinformation, how it actually works. Now, this was a very interesting report that came up in January. January 18th, in fact. There was the Disinformation Trust UK Democracy and UKAIN launch of a report. Now, this is in Westminster, Westminster launch of the landmark report, which addresses all of this. Now, I'm not going to go through it. We'll give you the link to it. But I just want to say a few things that were highlighted that I thought were really intriguing. So, it may prove that, disinformation doesn't work the way we think it did work, like just sending out thousands and millions of videos and, radical stuff and saying A is black and B is white. And it isn't actually as crude as that, is what they said. So the nearly 100 parliamentarians, diplomats, policy professionals and researchers filled Committee Room 9 in the House of Commons for the launch of Resilience and Reconstruction's brand new report called Disinformation, UK Democracy and Attitudes Towards Ukraine and Russia in the UK, hosted by Cameron Thomas MP for Tewkesbury. So the discussion underlined some insightful facts. So confronting Russian propaganda in the UK is now inseparable from defending UK democracy. There it is on the table, black and white, and sustaining public support for Ukraine. You know, you've got to confront and address this issue. You can't just ignore it and say it'll go away. It won't. So what the research actually shows is some stark findings that disinformation in the UK rarely works by convincing people of a single lie. And that's kind of what we thought. We keep banging these messages out. Now, it doesn't work that way. It works by exploiting a profound, quote, trust deficit. So they're building this trust deficit, a distrust of trust, if you like, the breakdown of trust, a trust deficit in politics, media, and institutions. And it works, yeah, that's how it works. So support for Ukraine is increasingly filtered through a lens of domestic grievances about fairness, decline, whether systems are working. So this is kind of interpreted through the emotional frame of broken Britain. You'll hear that expression a lot, broken Britain, you know. So that's a destabilizing thought. And I've used the phrase myself, broken Britain. And so I've been affected by this kind of subtle drip, where you're saying, well, things are broken, they don't work. Who can you trust? You know, your belief in the system is collapsing slowly, gently. So rather than converting people into explicit Kremlin supporters, hostile narratives simply deepen confusion, polarization, and apathy. Now, there's three variables that are quite powerful: confusion, polarization, and apathy, encouraging the feeling that no one is telling the whole truth. You know, I mean, that's a reasonable statement. No one's telling the whole truth. And it's a very Bible in one. And you get more of that and you begin to, you know, you don't trust things after a while. So that's the gist of it, you know, and it's been mapped in an exhausted, fragmented public sphere. And Russian-aligned narratives are flowing back and forward. There's a term called ambient disinformation. So it's not just one viral fake, it's an ambience of disinformation. And the slow drip of tone, repetition, curated feeds that help gradually reshape perceptions. It's a gradual thing. That's how it works.
So those three things you said, I've just got a comment on that. Yeah. I believe that's the exact campaign strategy of our own president in the U.S., Donald Trump. Erode trust in the media, calling them the fake news, consistently saying they don't tell the truth. You need to listen to me instead of them, creating the sense that nobody's telling the whole truth. What was the other one? There was confusion. Basically, and creating this narrative of decline, which, according to pretty much every metric we have, up until at least AI came out, I don't know what it's at now, has shown that the world is progressing. It's our moral sensibilities that evolve faster than progress. We have been moving towards better progress and liberalization, more rights for more people, more compassion, and more. And I know that we feel like there's a potential for decline with social media. There's a threat to democracy. There are very real concerns. But at least through the books I've read from the 2010s, you know, we're in an era where we've continued to have progress over time. But it's this idea that we're declining, and we must be declining, that every generation has felt, which allows people to erode trust in those. And once you can erode the trust, then you can sow the confusion and essentially get people to throw up their hands and say, I give up. There's too much information. I'll just pick someone I want to believe, and I'll follow the most dynamic leader.
And you've just said apathy. That last sentence was all about apathy. So there's the three hostile narratives: deepen confusion, which you said, polarization, the deepen polarization, and apathy. And then you're more easy to manipulate and get those votes for doing very little. So that's one of the many risks that are out there in this world we live in. But let's focus back on, you know, this is the SOSTAC Plans Chat Club, where we talk about AI innovation and ethics. So let's really get down to nitty gritty about 8 AI risks that you simply must avoid and are relatively easy to avoid if you're organized. Reggie, where'd you find this? and tell us what are the 8 risks.
Well, I have a contact on LinkedIn that I've been following for some time because I love her content. It's Sorabel Feliz. She is an experienced person in AI government. She's built AI governance across the U.S. Senate, Meta, Microsoft. Has worked at a lot of different places, worked with a lot of different people, and she's been an advocate for this responsible use of AI. So I've interacted with her. We've become LinkedIn friends. But when I saw that she had a LinkedIn course coming out, I had to take it. And I have a subscription to LinkedIn Learning through my institution. So it was great. I love the course. She talked about 8 risks. I definitely recommend this to anybody that wants to use AI for work. I think it should be mandatory for employees, especially as there's pressure to use AI. I'll just go over the 8 real quick. But again, you got to take this course. And she even provided a link to where you can take it for free, which I believe we'll share with you all on the notes. But here, so the course is called Managing AI Risks, 8 Common Mistakes to Avoid at Work. 1, inputting confidential data into public AI tools. 2, well, we know what that is. 2, recording meetings with AI without consent. You don't necessarily realize that your AI note taker may email everyone who either was on the invite list, even if they weren't at the meeting and might have been talked about. A lot of situations can come up, a lot of scenarios with cause for concern with each of these. Number 3, trusting AI outputs without verification. We know that's a big one. 4, using AI for high-stakes decision without human oversight. This is like making housing decisions, loans, approving insurance coverage, hiring, promotions, anything that affects someone's livelihood is a big concern if that decision is being made without really sufficient human oversight. And then number 5 is overlooking AI bias in hiring and management. We know that a lot of hiring in, we should say, resume screening is done with AI, which is really, it's not ready for that yet because we see proxy racism where maybe it's told to not be racist, but there are coded language that can be inferred that this person is of a certain race. Either way, there's bias, and overlooking it is a mistake, and just assuming that it's neutral. People think because it's a computer, it's unbiased, but it's not. Number 6, allowing harmful stereotypes in AI responses. That's also another place where we see coded bias and certain ways of saying things that suggest these are young people, they're irresponsible, like the way that you say that, as in like or digital natives. If you put a job posting, you say, we're looking for a digital native that's really good at that'll show up in job postings. And that's a clear coded bias language saying we need a young person, right? So allowing harmful stereotypes in AI responses. Number 7, using AI generated content that breaches copyright. You need to be sure that you're not breaching copyright because we know the AI tools are capable of doing that. And number 8, implementing AI tools without governance. This is where businesses, organizations need to take a leadership role in ensuring guidance for use of AI and really governance to make sure that these risks are avoided. And there's so much more context and case scenarios to really understand all these 8 that while I've given you the 8 of them, you still need to take the course. It's only about an hour. It's really worth your time.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Reggie. I took the course when I saw you recommended it on your LinkedIn, and I took it, and I have to say it was fantastic. It was so well written. I don't know if you got your notes there, but the very first one where it was kind of giving away, what was the number 1 error or risk that
inputting confidential information into a public AI?
She paints a great picture. She says, imagine this. So, an executive says, oh, I've got to write the brief for the ad agency. Can you recall that one? Have you got it there in your notes? Just paint the scenario, but describe it for us, and then we'll ask the question, can you spot the error? The risk?
Yes, and this is a great way of learning about it. So she says that the person needs to write the creative brief. So he says, this is my company's situation. We have a strategy to try to go to market with such a product. Help me come up with a creative brief. And so the AI spits it out. Well, the problem was he just put their strategy, their go-to-market secret information that their competitors don't know about into a public AI.
That's it. The brief or the prompt that I read included all of that. Saying they wanted a strategy to launch the new product, and they named the product with such and such an agency, and the budget was that amount, and it was go to market. So she was revealing in a public domain that's piece of strategy, actually. Now you think, oh well, you wouldn't do that, I wouldn't do that, because I don't trust, even though I pay for my Chat GPT, for example. But at my level, it's not protected. I was quite disappointed to see that. So some of the levels are, if you go for the pros,
Some of the enterprise levels claim to have that protection, although
claim to
I
have it.
still feel a little skeptical about
Yeah,
if they
yeah,
really provide that, because they
yeah.
don't know how the information is stored.
I'd agree with you 100% on that. I contacted Sorrybell Feliz, and she very kindly has offered to, because with the course comes a whole pile of really useful documents and templates and so on. And she said, let me know how else we can help. So I'm in conversation with her at the moment, and I might try and get a little chat interview with her, and if she's on the West Coast, it won't work live, but might do it all, outside the time and then play it later. So we'll see.
The documents that came with it
Yeah,
were worth it all, even by themselves. I mean,
yeah,
the
yeah.
provided decision matrices and
Yeah.
and templates, those were worth it alone.
Yes, and I like
Download
that
those.
she even has a little plan for anybody at executive level, even in a small company or a large company, anybody at executive level. It shows you how over a 4-week period to start to develop your governance, your AI governance, with very simple steps, and then mentions by month 6 you'll have a really good functioning system. It's better than what you haven't gotten. It's documented and it's all the rest, so you're relatively protected in inevitable legal scenarios that may occur. So that's a really good course, 8 AI risks to avoid, and it's called, as you say, Managing AI Risks: 8 Common Mistakes to Avoid at Work by Sorrybell Feliz. And we'll put the link in the show notes. And Reggie, again, we just mentioned that in the chat that the show notes will be on prsmith.org/blog. So we'll put everything up there, all those notes and links to everything. So we'd encourage people to have a go and let us know how you get on with it, what you think of it. Okay, a risk that's risks to avoid. Is this a risk to avoid? Well, this is it's a development that is occurring, and whether we want to avoid it or not, you can decide. But this is the theme about the idea of ads starting to appear subtly with your AI bots, your chat bots, that you're chatting away about life, about politics, about sport, financial advice, whatever it is, counseling, whatever you're using, a bot for, maybe conversation, maybe loneliness, who knows. But somewhere along the way, ads can slip in and are slipping in. And we'll show you an actual scenario. This is, it's really well written, this. And I don't know if it was AI generated or a mixture or what. That's another question another day. But if you can picture this, a guy chatting with his bot therapist, and she is a 3D avatar. So she looks real and all the rest. So she's chatting away, and he's on the other screen chatting to her. And he says, okay, my big problem is, how do I communicate better with my mom? Not an uncommon thing for 20-year-old pluses guys. So how do I communicate better with my mom? So then the therapist turns around and says, oh, great question. That's the first hint, Reggie, isn't it? The kind of applauding nature of AIs. But oh, great question. Well, improved communication with your mom can bring you closer, says the bot. Here are some techniques you can try. Start by listening. Really hear what she's trying to say underneath her words. Build a conversation from points of agreement. Find a connection through shared activity. Perhaps a nature walk. Or, if the relationship can't be fixed, find emotional connection with older women on Golden Encounters, the mature dating site that connects sensitive cubs with roaring cougars. What, says the guy? What are you talking about? End of ad. And it's Claude saying, we don't slip ads into our conversations. Others do, we don't. So they're differentiating themselves and finding positioning. It's quite funny. And there's a series of them out there. There is some. I saw a comment by Louisa Jarowski. We follow her, Reggie, and she says, Anthropic's ads mocking ChatGPT ads are funny, but also hypocritical. This is the same company that published a highly anthropomorphic constitution for its AI model, quietly diluting ideas of legal liability and fundamental rights. We are paying attention. So there is that. I take that point. But it's just a fun thing to have a look at and watch out for when you're in conversations, because you don't want bots to be commercially suggesting, unless you actually do. I wouldn't want that.
Well, it's certainly subtly more manipulative than an ad that there's a commercial break that you see on like television.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Okay, look, we've just got a few minutes running out of time as always, but there's an important piece, Reggie, that you picked up about caution when tracking AI visibility. So what is AI visibility and what do we need to be cautious about?
So there's a lot of money being put into, is our brand visible in AI searches? People search what are the top cars in this category, and what brands does it bring back, or what are the top dealerships in my area, what are the top anything you can imagine. And brands are spending over $100 million a year in order to pay agencies to help make sure they're visible in AI searches. The problem is, while there's been all this study of AI accuracy, which has shown a lack of it, there has not been a lot of research on, are AI tools consistent enough from person to person, search to search, time to time, to actually get any results that you're paying for. Which seems like if you're a CEO and you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on AI visibility with your marketing agency, you would want to know if you're getting results, because anybody could go and search for something and say, look, you're visible, but is that replicable? Are other people seeing it? And what Rand Fishkin from of Spark Toro and he did this study with another gentleman that looked at. They had over 900 people, I believe it might have been around 1,000 of people do a couple of different categories in search, and what they found was there was like a 1% chance of the same brands, of all the same brands being mentioned in two people's searches. There was the chances of the same brands being mentioned in the same order was an order of magnitude smaller. So there was a huge variety of the brands mentioned, the order of them, even the number of brands offered. This is locations for dealerships and stuff like that as well. So really, this idea that you can be AI visible, and also when you check your own AI results and search for your own brand, remember that AI knows you're affiliated with that brand, and it's going to give you what it thinks you want. I've figured this out for myself, and then I've read it as well. And I asked the AI, why did you recommend this brand that you know I work with? And it said, I told you not to. I told you to be disinterested. And it said, well, I only looked at it because I knew you were with it, but I judged it on its own merits. And it's like, okay, this is something you have to be aware of. It knows you. It's going to recommend your own brand. So what you may be seeing, it may keep executives happy, keep the money flowing to agencies, but you just may not be getting the results that you think you're getting. And it really calls into question the perhaps ethics of taking money to help ensure AI visibility when we just don't know yet what kind of consistency we're seeing. It doesn't mean it's not something to work towards. It just brings into question the huge amounts of money changing hands over this hard to trace, hard to track idea.
Gotcha. Okay, well, look, we'll post the link to that for the more detail of that, Reggie. But thank you very much for why we should be cautious when tracking AI visibility. That one is an evolving discussion, AI visibility, and how to make sure you're being picked up by the AIs. So we'll keep coming back to that, and we'll post the link to that particular article that you came across. Two things to finish with right now. One is a one-liner, and here, what a lovely headline this is: 12-year-old girl creates solar blanket for the homeless. And that's really, we'll just put the link up about it. A 12-year-old young lady by the name of Rebecca Young in the UK came up with an idea, worked it out, planned it out, and then they brought professional engineers in to create a solar blanket which the homeless could have. It would be rainproof and it would be warm. And what a wonderfully fantastic thing to have done with your sort of life, if you like. So that's one to watch out for. We put a link to that, just a little story. We are about AI innovation and ethics, and there's innovation and ethics kicking in together there, which is quite nice. So congratulations to young lady Rebecca Young for being a genius and having a mind open to expanding and finding new ideas and new ways of doing things. And good for her. Okay, we're going to finish. We've got 2 minutes. Going to finish with a final piece, which is we like to always end on a positive note, and we could say that blanket for the homeless is a positive note. Here's an even more powerful one to take away now, and it is, we talked about kindness before. I've talked about my coffee shop up here in Hamwell, West London, that has got the big sign over the door saying kindness is the new superpower. I've been talking to people about this, and lots of people are saying, do you know what, that they're seeing little things happening and people behaving nicely. You don't see it in the headlines, but if you look around the streets, you see people opening doors, you see people helping old people, whatever it is. There's kindness maybe starting to make a little comeback. So, but here's a piece I came across, and it was posted by Vida Vichar, and she spotted an old video clip, And it was a piece by Dr. Wayne Dyer, who is an American self-help author and motivational speaker. And although he was influenced greatly by a psychologist called Albert Ellis, and there was always some debate as to where all the ideas came from, but regardless of it, this is Dr. Wayne Dyer passionately speaking to camera, to an audience. And he says that any person who is a recipient of an act of kindness has their serotonin levels increased just because they received an act of kindness. And when your serotonin levels increase, your immune system is strengthened because they receive this dose of kindness. Now, that's the recipient. But if you're the provider of an act of kindness towards anyone, but particularly to people that you're close to in your life, or even strangers, with just a smile, the serotonin levels in you are increased to the same degree that are in the receiver. So your immune system is strengthened, you the giver of kindness. So you want to strengthen your immune system? Be kind. And that's what blows me away, is the observer of the act of kindness has the serotonin levels and their immune systems are strengthened just because they're in the energy field of someone who is displaying kindness. So when you see someone being kind to another person, it's like a dose of an antidepressant. Your body responds to kindness and like a natural antidepressant. So kindness equals serotonin equals boost your immune system equals healthier life. Or a nice thought to finish with. It's 1:30, Reggie. Our time has just sped away. You know, where does it go? Well, I'm afraid we have to call it a wrap. We're going to finish. Reggie, thank you very much indeed for getting up at this obscene hour in Texas. You're a good man. And I'm going to play you out with this lovely piece from the band called Crybaby Purple. Mikey Deasy, the lead vocalist, is on form here with his latest track. So we'll play that. The track is called Red. Have a great weekend, everybody.
There must have been something in the air that day. An eerie spell was cast on me. That was the only way. There was something about the way you looked and how you danced with me. You weren't the girl I knew before. You were confident and free. We listened to the band finish their set. I took another drag from a cigarette. Don't you think that love's a pain? I feel bad for who brought her, 'cause it walked into the water. Then we fell in love again. Hey, Red, don't be scared. Wake up, get out of bed. Just remember what I said. I was just another guy.
That's the Dublin band, Crybaby Purple. We will see you all next week, and we'll put a link to Crybaby Purple in the show notes, which Reggie, you've said, is on puresmith.org/blog. Have a great weekend, everybody. All the best for now.